got this breaking heart. Dare I share the hardest part? Don't say it. Don't say it. Nobody's fine. Nobody's fine. Everyone tries, but nobody's fine. What's that you say? They're taking you away. I could have sworn last week you said you got the job full steam ahead. Don't say it. Please say it. Nobody's fine. Nobody's fine. Everyone tries, but nobody's fine. My father's in a home looking so much older. My son fell down and bruised his shoulder. My girlfriend's on a trip with some other guy. I'm smiling at you when I want to cry. Everyone tries, but nobody's fine. So next time, my dear, just whisper in my ear. I really want to hear from you your victories and honest truths.
Hey, Rahim.
Hi, Matthew. It's good to be here.
It's so good to have you. Oh my gosh. So you just played the most incredible, like just heartwarming, like the energy in the room from that performance was surreal and beautiful. Would you like to talk for a few minutes about?
Oh, well, first, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And entering the studio and seeing that beautiful Rhodes piano and the camera set up and being with good friends and it just set the stage to feel like I could just play. As we know, that just feels to feel home.
Absolutely.
And comfortable and like you're in a safe place,
Yeah.
And so that song is called Nobody's Fine. And then I think in parentheses it'll say, but everyone tries. Because that song is written about these times we're living in.
Yeah.
And whether we're carrying personal things, that's one heaviness that everybody may or may not be carrying something heavy.
Sure, yeah.
But we're all carrying this strange era, national, international stress of the sign of the times.
Yeah.
So I tend to write songs that either are sad that sound happy.
Mm-hmm.
This one lives in a melancholy world, but I didn't want to just end it really to say, I didn't want to just leave it on the table like, nobody's fine.
Right.
Nobody's fine. And then here's why nobody's fine.
Right, yeah.
It's more of like, nobody's fine, but we're all trying. We're getting through this,
Yeah.
And then also it was spurred on by, I think I was with a friend, and it was just a casual encounter, and it happens a million times a day. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
And those are opportunities, and it's not always an invitation to go, blah.
Right.
But sometimes, like when it's a close friend,
Yeah.
You can look at somebody and say, hey, how are you? And it's not just idle chat. It's not just that first little 1-2.
Absolutely agree. Yeah.
And it can be, hey, my just put my father in an assisted living home, and I'm having a hard time with that.
Yeah.
So it opens up, and so that's what that song is about. It's kind of like getting past the small talk, which is okay, because that's a part of how society works.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
It's not judging like, oh, you said how are you? It's more like, okay, what's behind the how are you?
Right.
And then it's more like, okay, oh, I thought everything was fine because you're such a positive guy. And maybe people that's in
right,
it.
yeah.
And we both are,
Certainly,
and
I can relate to that completely.
and it's kind of like, well, I am positive because I choose
to be.
Those are the glasses I choose to filter,
Right, yeah.
the lens. But man, I am, and so there's lyrics in the song that really go to, because at the time my father was dying.
Yeah.
And I did put him in, and one of the lyrics is, my father's in a home looking so much older. And then my son, he was in a bike wreck. And so, the lyrics, it was just flowing out,
Right.
And my son fell down and he bruised his shoulder. And 6 months earlier, I was going out with a woman, girl, a lady, lovely lady. And she, while we were going out, she went on a vacation with another guy, which is kind of like, huh? And so it's like, and my girlfriend's on a trip with some other guy.
Right.
I'm smiling at you when I want to cry.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what's behind? So
Right.
This whole album really, it's really indicative of the album. It's like, what's behind the curtain? What's
Right.
behind? What's coming back in the mirror? What's the true image in that mirror?
Right. It's like unpeeling that emotional onion a little bit further.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And doing it not in a over dramatic way.
Sure, yeah.
But just kind of a literary way,
Yeah.
but a understanding way, of
Wanting to.
Yeah.
I think, like even listening to that song, my immediate thought was kind of getting beyond the precedence of conversation even, which is we all do fall into the methods of saying, hi, how are you?
Yeah.
Or, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
we respond with some stock response.
Yeah. Because the answer is usually, I'm fine.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. I'm good.
Because we
what's
don't
up?
take
Nothing?
that as a sincere
Yeah.
action in a sense. And that's a really interesting way to think about it. I love the methodology behind that madness a little bit.
And it's going to be the first song on the new album because because of the lyrics, because the first words out of the gate are, how are you?
Yeah.
So how are you?
Yeah.
Sunny
Wow.
or blue? But then saying, I'm asking for your honesty, into your eyes, I want to see you.
Yeah.
It's like right out of the gate. And that's what this whole album is. It's going to be a very honest, maybe because I'm deeper now.
Yeah.
Whatever journey we're on as songwriters reflects our depth level.
Yeah. I can certainly 100% relate to that.
Yeah.
I feel like every single record I've ever personally released throughout my career had a similar effect to me. It really did reflect that moment of time in my life. So I completely agree with what you're saying there.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to hear more about like the overarching concept of the record. And, so please continue.
Well, this is the most reflective and societal commentary world I've gone into. And it's just as a songwriter, that's just where I am. My eyes, my view finder my lens is just wider.
Right.
There's a couple of breakup songs in there, because I lived through that.
Yeah.
But still it's written stylistically, there's common denominators, like it's more piano based in general.
Okay.
It's more string section based in general because I record in New Orleans primarily these days with Rick Nelson,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, that's wonderful. Old Denton guy. Yeah,
Denton guy,
that's wonderful. Yeah.
You know, and he, of course, founding, you know, Polyphonic Spree and
the Afghan Wigs, right?
Afghan
That's
Wigs,
right, yeah.
and he's also in Blind Melon now.
What?
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
no idea Rick was in Blind Melon.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
amazing.
And but he has an amazing studio in New Orleans. I think maybe we've talked about that. But, it's called Maroney Sound Recording Studio.
Wow.
And I go in there and I get to be a mad scientist. And as we know, there's no better gift you can give a creative, you know, and it's more like, just like walking into the studio where I played Nobody's Fine, you see like beautiful instruments and the lighting, and you're like, okay, I'm ready. I'm tingling.
Time.
It's game time. Let's go, you know? So this album is primarily piano and strings and vocals, choice little guitar parts that I can play, you know, but it's almost Beatlesque in a way because their leads, their early leads, you know, 2/3 of their career were just beautiful little melodic, little, like almost repeating the verse.
Just a little magic here and
little
there.
magic here and there. It doesn't need, you know, so and so and then other fun sounds and, you know, piano organi, you know, kind of those reed organs.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and melodica and vibes. You know, and so
well, I can't wait to hear it.
You know, you know, and drums and bass and everything too, you know, but yeah,
that's amazing. And
I'm so excited about that.
I'm so excited to hear it. What is that, if I may? What's the title?
You know,
and you can say, you know,
this there is a life-changing for me song on there called Something from Nothing.
Ooh.
You haven't heard it.
Okay.
And this song is kind of, it's deep, it's larger than life song. Because it goes to the whole concept of everything is from nothing, you know?
Yeah.
And that goes from anything creative, you know, that song did not exist before. That painting did not exist before. And then you can extrapolate that. This friendship didn't exist before.
Yeah.
It was nothing before it was something.
That's true.
Everything. And I know it's kind of maybe obvious, you know, but to actually think about everything, boop, boop, into existence. Everything.
Yeah.
And so I wrote a song about it, you know, called Something from Nothing.
Yeah.
And something from nothing is happening. That's what we are.
Yeah.
Everything, friendships, love, children, this table, you know.
Yeah.
So that logo that looks so nice. So and that's such a big name, Something from Nothing.
Yeah.
Because everything really would fit. Because I love naming albums that the songs all fit. It's like the album name is the basket,
right?
And all the songs fit in that basket.
Absolutely, agree with you there.
And so that's kind of the idea. And if not, I was thinking about Nobody's Fine.
See, I'm partial to that because I love that performance.
But that was kind of like it's between those two.
Yeah. Oh. Killer titles, yeah.
You know, Nobody's Fine, and maybe even in parentheses, you know, but everyone tries, you know.
Beautiful and deeply.
And it says it all, you know.
Yeah, so eloquently well worded as well.
Thank you.
I completely agree with you. While we're on the topic of your records,
yes,
I've been having fun because, you know, you and I have a friendship that spans many years, many experiences together.
Yes.
And so I'm really grateful to share this moment in time with you as well. But I have had the pleasure of doing a little Rahim research or Rahim search, however we would like to kind of coin that phrase, just to try and get to know the parts of your career maybe I missed.
Yeah.
One of the cool things that I discovered was on your record Supernatural, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
But there were most of the songs on that record had 100+ different tracks. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Would you please elaborate on that? I'm so curious.
Well, that first two albums, Big Black Box and Supernatural, I recorded exclusively at Salim Nouralla's studio.
Wonderful.
Called Pleasantry Lane. And the first album was Big Black Box. I had my band, and we basically played those songs.
Right.
And we went into the studio and we basically played those songs. Strong performances, so that's, when you think about drums, that might be 8 tracks of, proper miking or whatever. And then you think about guitars, one guitar here and one, a bass and a, and so altogether you might say, well, that was 24 tracks. Well done, or 12 tracks.
Absolutely.
12 tracks. Well, and that was that. And so, a few years later, Supernatural comes along, and it was almost as if, and it might have been almost like digital recording was what it was established before, with my other album. But this was more like, I think Salim maybe understood. We just went for it.
I love that.
And I'm not saying it's because here's the thing. Some of those songs had 120 tracks. Because that's the thing, is like, well, let's double it.
Yeah, of course.
Well, why stop at doubling? Quadruple that.
Let's go. Yes.
And so literally there might be eight vocal backing tracks, doing the same thing. Let's double the lead. Yeah. Everything was doubled. It just was like, well, so, and if you listen to certain songs, even if you listen to Supernatural, the song Supernatural, you can almost hear 100 tracks.
Yeah.
If you really listen, you're like, oh yeah.
And I definitely revisited that record after making that discovery earlier this week.
Yeah.
And there are certainly moments where I'm like, oh my word, there's so many cool, just little bits of sound that it kind of ethereally, glow around the aura of the song. So it's like really beautiful. What's one of your favorites
on that album?
Yeah.
Well, I love She Talks to Moonlight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an example of a song that didn't have 120 tracks.
Yeah.
It's just a bouncy, fun, energetic, and very original song.
Yeah.
The chord progression, actually, the chord progression, I didn't mean to, but I kind of borrowed part of the chord from Mr. Blue Sky.
Oh, okay.
And then I felt a little like, golly, I kind of like nicked that, No. But then I realized that Mr. Blue Sky was just nuts. I don't know if you thought about this. He took that from Yesterday.
Oh my gosh. It's okay. I can see that. Yeah.
I'm telling you, if you lay the chord progressions down and the way they modulate the melody, it's like
it's Yesterday.
Yes.
Wow.
And it's this is we're making breaking news here.
Oh my gosh, breaking news.
Yeah. And so I didn't feel so bad. At that point, it let me off the hook. Well, he got it from Yesterday.
What musical great hasn't borrowed from another legend?
And I didn't really mean to.
Sure,
I just loved the way it's whatever I was doing sounded.
Absolutely.
So
I get it. I felt for many years, like in the early days of my career, that I was just borrowing from Jeff Mangum and Neutral Milk Hotel in most ways, within my progressions at least. So, but either way, either way, yeah. So another fun thing that I wanted to bring up was often your music, or in my research and within my friendship, knowing you have often likened your songwriting abilities to like spirituality and Zen and finding balance. Is that something you'd like to touch on?
I would love to. I don't think I really was showing that part of or maybe that part of myself didn't exist as much in those first couple of albums.
Yeah.
Big Black Box, because that was a healing from a relationship. That whole album was just about dealing with pain and
growing.
Like of a relation, all very relationship. Everything fit in that box, Supernatural was almost like a white album. Yeah. It really was a hodgepodge. And that's what Salim, he was like, man, all these songs are so different, you know? And it's not kind of like a neutral, you know,
Right,
where,
yeah, of course,
where
yeah.
it's kind of like, here's the vibe.
Right,
You know?
right.
It's more like, here's She Stalked the Moonlight, and here's this one, and
Yeah.
here's this one, here's like this little piano thing, you know?
Yeah.
And, but there wasn't too much spirituality or anything overt by any means, because I didn't own that.
Right.
There was some things. I was always doing this. I was always writing songs, even in that era, that had tinges of hope. You know, kind of like there was always this little way out. There was always I would write these songs, and they would be sad kind of lyrics about, you know, but I always would write in a back door.
Yeah.
Like there's a way out though, or you're gonna make it.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And of course, I was just talk to myself, you know,
Yeah.
singing or writing internally, so that was spiritual in its own way.
And maybe that's exactly
Maybe you're
my
picking
point.
up on that.
Yes.
You know, there's always
and
kind
how
of a
your
way out,
audience
you know. Yeah.
picks up on your music, you
Yeah.
know? And having, even being a friend of yours, getting
Yeah.
to know you, I've always picked up on little moments of, I would say, light.
Yeah.
You know, like, or
yes.
there's a way to balance it, which is one of the things I've always admired about your songwriting and your music.
Excellent.
Is
Yeah.
you aren't just telling a story. There isn't just a narrative. There isn't just a character. There's some real depth. There's understanding.
Yeah.
There's breath. There's light at the end of whatever tunnel
wow.
we're traveling, or
Yes.
light in there. It doesn't have to be
Yes.
light at the end, right? There's just a
Right.
light.
Yes.
And I mean
I'm
that
glad you
with
feel that.
all my heart. Like, I think
Right.
there's just something beautiful there.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
which brings me to my next topic. It's a record we're both familiar with. Let's talk about Ghost Hunting.
Oh man. Ghost hunting. Okay, this is funny because you set it up
Yeah.
well in that way. Ghost hunting comes along, and first of all, the song itself came from being haunted, like an actual haunting that I physically went through in Jefferson, Texas, in East Texas, you know. But I didn't want to write a song about ghosts. So I turned it into a relationship song about really, like, I was sort of like an allegory, like a two-sided tale of really about relationships, of how we can become ghosts to each other. But I borrowed it all from the experience of being haunted, you know, which was nuts, and still kind of shakes me because it was so real, and there was so many layers to that haunting that took place.
Well, since we're here,
Yeah.
we've got the microphones on,
Yeah.
we've got the cameras rolling, the energy is flowing, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about this haunting before you dive back into
Okay.
the record, please.
Well, before ghost hunting was like a trend, before it kind of got all over TV shows, you know, I was always into it. You know, I'm one of, maybe we all were, but I was really into it. And I think because I grew up partly in a little mining town in Colorado, Victorian house, experiences as a child of like,
Sure.
"Ooh, what was that?
Yeah.
And so as I kind of got older in my 20s and 30s, I was just always kind of like, I would do my own little ghost hunts,
Yeah.
And so I discovered Jefferson, Texas, which is an East Texas town that was born antebellum, like pre-Civil War, and then it survived Civil War, and then it was Reconstruction, and it's all protected. And have you been there?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh,
Amazing. Yeah.
baby.
Amazing. Yes.
So and it's like, wow.
It really does have quite a way to capture you, like,
It does.
instantly. It's
It
just
is.
It's very special.
It is special,
Yeah.
And, so all that to said, there was a house there called the Grove House, and it was for sale. And so I brought my daughter, Jessica, and we went there to have a ghost experience. And it's a very bad dad thing, because I was kind of, what does that mean?
Right,
ghost
yeah.
experience. It could be it could be a cute little tug on your shirt.
Yeah. Or a full-on possession.
Or
You just
full-on
don't know.
possession.
Yeah.
You don't know. And I was open to whatever happens.
Yeah.
Whatever happens.
Yeah.
And so we get into this house. The front door was locked. It was raining. It was cold in the morning, cool spring morning. And bad dad, it's like, well, maybe the back door's open. So we walk around to the back, and the back door, screen door, back door's open. We just help ourselves into this house.
Yeah.
And as we walk in, it's like, well, there's nobody there. It's kind of like an old 1860s house. Wood floors, but it's furnished in period time, like 18.
Wow.
Camelback sofa. Like stuff.
Even creepier. Yeah. So
creepy.
Yes.
And I remember, walking through, and my daughter Jessica would start saying things like, "I'm cold," and I would, bad dad. I was like Homer Simpson. I'd be like, "Well, these houses, they retain the coolness of the night, and." I was explaining everything as we went,
Right,
and she would actually say, like, "I feel scared right now," and I would be like, "Well, we're in a haunted house, So, I was just like, dad's playing.
Yeah, exactly.
Dad's playing.
Dadding it up. Dadding it up. Yeah.
And so we get to the living room, and the thing is about this place, it really looked like a haunted house. It was almost as if somebody propped it up. Not that they did. It just looked that way.
Wow.
For instance, there was like this tapestry, and on the tapestry was a bull like this.
Yeah.
And on the back of the bull was this naked woman like this. I'm like, well, that's not a selling point.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to sell this. And I was like, well, so this and that. And then and then we go into the living room, and it's kind of got the old curtains, and this camelback that's ripped and torn. And I was like, everything's dusty. Everything's just like there's like a light up there that's just like hanging, hanging. Yeah, kind of like. And I'm like standing there by the front. I unlock the front door, like the little latch goes, then we'll just go out the front. And we're just standing there. And, Jessica along the way, she's done this 2 or 3 times, I'm cold, I'm scared. Each time,
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Got you.
Yeah.
And so we're standing there at the front door. I open the door a crack, standing there at the front door, kind of looking back into the house. And because I've heard all these stories about this house. This house is like a storied house, it's on haunted lists all over the place, about, I could go on and on about the different experiences that people have had there.
Right,
so I'm standing there, and I'm thinking to myself, well, nothing's happened. And it just is what it is. It's wood floors. It's just a noun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just in a noun. I'm just in a noun.
I'm just in a noun.
I'm just in a noun, And there's no verb going on, So it just is what it is.
Yeah.
Like sometimes, and that's our mind is more like, it's just when you peel away fear, you're just like, well, this is just a microphone, and it's not gonna, it's not gonna, but
right.
And so we're standing there, and I'm like, oh, you ready to go? It's just like, this is a dud, this is just blah, 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 whatever. Right. And so right as I look at Jessica, I was like, you ready? And she's like, about to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
From here to maybe 20 feet away, because there wasn't doors, it's just kind of a hallway, living room, opens up into like another parlor. It's just wide open. It wasn't one of those little houses that's all cut up, The scream emanated from like 15 feet away, just out of air, like a woman agonizing scream, like you would hear on a horror
guttural,
movie. Guttural, like out of nowhere.
Wow.
And it was just like, and so I grabbed her hand. I flung the door open. I was the first out. Bad dad. But it was so absurd that I'm proud. I'm almost like saying it like a trophy, Like, well, I was leading the way.
Yeah, you were leading the charge.
I was leading the charge.
Away from the guttural screams. Yes. Yeah.
And again, thankfully I can say that. And the stairs do this. It's like front stairs, like cement stairs. And we literally jumped off, the stairs, like to the,
Like you were just,
we were just like, because all I was thinking two things. Ghost.
yeah.
What the,
Yeah.
and or is this murder?
Yeah.
Murder house?
Yeah.
So,
where am I? Yeah.
All of a sudden somebody comes out like with a,
It's like Leatherface comes out of nowhere.
Leatherface comes out of nowhere. Like he was like, those are the thoughts. That's, we jest, but that's the thought, it's like, we are in danger.
Yeah.
Get out.
Run. Yeah.
And as we ran and we got into my car, and then I'm the Barney Fife. I'm getting my keys and then I had a 4Runner and I was trying to get into the key lock, I couldn't. I couldn't get it in, and I had to turn it on, get in the car, drive away, And then I go to my friend's house, who was the town doctor, married to the town nurse. We go to their house and we're like, but here's the thing, I recorded it all. I had it all on a cassette tape. And I said, we were just screamed out of the Grove house. So he's like, I got this. So I put this tape in and started, heard the scream. But we heard all this other stuff too. And this is kind of, I'll say this. Every time Jessica said something, I'm cold, I'm scared, you could hear on the tape a man humming around her. And on the tape, the magnetic tape, it almost sounded like it was in stereo.
Wow.
It was like this. I'm scared. It had like a little vibrato.
What?
And then I feel cold.
Oh man. Yeah.
As we entered the house, didn't hear anything. But on the tape, it showed like almost like a Negro spiritual was humming, and not humming, but like a lilting voice in the background, like.
Wow.
So you started hearing all these things,
chills, yeah.
And so that was more like we left, and I filed a police report because we got home and Jessica said, "Dad, what if there was like crime taking place?"
Yeah.
Like reality.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, I should call the police. So I called Jefferson Police. They sent two people out there to the house, looking around, and and they didn't find anything. But the next morning, I called in. I said, hey, I called that in last night. I wanted to follow up. What happened?
Yeah.
And the police report actually, they wrote down. Well, they said they didn't find anything, but they checked it out. But on the police report, they wrote down ghost.
Wow.
On the police report, they wrote down ghost.
Well,
and so that was the seed to Ghost Hunting, the album.
Wow.
Which wasn't a theme album,
right?
At
of
all.
course.
But that song became such a important song on the album because because the whole album, as you know, because you helped me with the artwork, was the Grove House was kind of a fold out picture of that haunted house. And but I'll say this too, so that was the haunting thing, but that album was my response to I'm not going to do 120 tracks again,
right,
per song. 90 tracks, 100, 120, whatever,
right.
So
you're going to simplify and leave
everything. So Ghost Hunting, the album, it's like 13 songs, and they might have been like maybe 20, 30 tracks tops, which is a lot still, but still it was more like, back to normal. And I kind of likened it to the whole concept of Japanese art.
Okay.
I forget, there's a name for it, but like brush strokes, like how can you express the most with the least brush strokes, and that with that sensibility in mind,
right.
How can I say the least? How can I say the most with the least?
Yeah.
How can you give the ear the deepest experience with the least amount of stuff going on?
Yeah.
And so Ghost Hunting became a real journey into deeper level of songs. You know, songwriting, darker little twists and turns.
Of course.
High, you know, bright, glowing, warm songs, you know. A song called If This Is It. That's probably my favorite on there. It's called a song called If This Is It.
It's a beautiful song.
Oh, I'm glad you know it. And there's a little instrumental in that. And I wanted to compose something that sounded like love. Just sounds like love. And so that's what that instrumental is. It's like, if I could, and the lyrics leading into that instrumental is, if I could just show you.
Yeah.
And then I just play, to me, what is love? What does love sound like?
Right.
You know, without words, you know, just.
Of course.
And then it goes, if this is it, you know, my heart won't quit.
Yeah.
You know.
That's beautiful, Rahim.
Yeah.
I love that. Love that very much.
Yeah.
And, you know, while we're talking about ghost hunting, which, you know, it is like absolutely a journey from start to where we currently are. If you listen to Rahim's music, you know, I agree with you. I feel like it's a really wonderful journey where each record offers its own little world for the songs to exist within.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. Like, so if you're not familiar with Rahim's music, by all means, check it out. But while we're talking about ghost hunting, that's also a pretty special record for a number of reasons. Like, you were recognized by the Grammy committee. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, 2 different categories. Best engineered album and best American roots album. And so it's a fuzzy little thing because people call it a nomination. I think to hang on to the promotional marketing angle of it.
Sure.
But for me, what it is I made it to the second round of the Grammy nominating process.
Yeah. Which is huge.
Which is huge
amazing. Because
that's like, you go from thousands of submissions nationally, internationally.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
Thousands, you know. And it's narrowed down to like 200 nationally and internationally.
Yeah.
And so the people, because I saw the list, and there I am in it, like, hey, you know, Paul Simon, Paul McCartney, you know, Lord Huron and Beck.
Rahim Quazi.
And, you know, and Rahim Quazi, you know, and I was like, on both of these, it was like all these, you know, Bruce Springsteen and, you know, going on. And just like, Wilco and like, you know, Rahim Quazi. And so I had no aspirations of
course,
but I'll say that was a beautifully a nice boost to just of wowness, inner wowness to go, wow. And what I think how that happened was, I think the album was strong in that it was the fidelityness of it. It was it was strong. I think, yes, I want to say the songs were good and that it was kind of a strong present, you know, that the committee listening. But I think what they do is I'm pretty sure they cross-reference, like, who is this Rahim guy?
Sure, yeah.
And at the time, I had, and this is I'd like to do this again. I had 27 national and not even local. There's some local, but it was mainly 27 different things happening in the media. You know, American Songwriter magazine, you know, like all these different, like hard print things. Blogs, you know, all those kind of things, you know, course, magazines, online magazines, paper write-ups, this and that, you know, 5 questions for Rahim, you know, all, you know, there was 27 happening at the same time. And I think the committee must have gone, oh, well, there's like a buzz, you know.
Yeah, he's bobbing and weaving over there.
Bobbing and weaving over there. Like, well, okay, then, you know, here we and so I was overjoyed, you know, just to make it to that next level. And that's where it ended. But it really kind of was a nice little, you know, because even locally, as amazing as we know this local scene, you know, it's very rare.
Yeah,
you know,
it is. Yeah,
that people get to that mantle.
Absolutely,
and so it really kind of was a nice little pat on the back, you
Yeah.
know.
No,
And
it's amazing. I mean,
so
it's huge. I mean, it's those little things as artists that it's not even the recognition behind it per se, but it's the act in itself of knowing that fire is burning bright enough.
Yeah.
And that inspires you, I feel, or at least this is the way I equate it, to ignite that flame a little bit higher, to turn the heat up and say, well, hey, you know what? If I can reach there, what happens when I take a full swing?
Ooh.
And, you know, and that's really, you know, a big part of my personal fire in that capacity is like, because I do believe anytime, because I remember when that happened, and I remember even in that moment, I think I texted you and was just like, I have no words. You know, it's amazing. It's amazing.
It is.
And all of my friends who've gone down those roads as well, I'm just like astounded every time I see it, because it does inspire the community around us, which, you know, leads me to my next question was, you know, you've been in the DFW music community for even longer than I have.
Yeah.
And this has been my home for well over 20 years now. But what are some of your favorite parts of the DFW music community? Be it not necessarily artists, because I know we have a huge family of artists in our quiver, if you will, but really like what you take away from the DFW community
that's a great
versus
question.
other scenes you've seen or
that's a
visited.
great question. That's a great question. And, you know, I think my thought off the top of my head is like, I go to the eras. It's like a friendship. It's like our friendship that we're building over these last 10 plus years, 15 years, I could say, you know, maybe.
I think you're right. Yeah. Like 15 plus years.
You know, and with every year it becomes a deeper gift, you know, because it means it's being maintained, you know, and it's growing it's so what I'm taking away is I just feel so fortunate that I kind of came up, appeared like in 1986 with Steve Duncan.
Yeah.
Who went on we were in our first bands together. And then he went on to Tabula Rasa, and then he created, and then he was in Grand Street Criers.
Wow.
You know, and which turned into Blue Sky Black, and then he did his own Chemistry set, you know, so Steve and I started out together, and what I'm getting at is we were a part of that scene, that Fort Worth Berry Street University scene, the Hop,
was the Aardvark there at that time?
That's what the Hop was.
Oh, okay.
Before the Aardvark, it was the Hop.
My gosh.
And then it turned into, you know, baby. And then next to it was called the Moon.
Oh, I remember the Moon.
Know?
Yeah.
And so there was like this little scene, you know, we were just scraping it out, you know. And what I'm saying is, and as I went on, then I was a part of, you know, like different bands and things, and then I ended up in a band called Oh No, which started out as Bicycle Thief, and then it was Oh No, and that was with Stephen Holt. And we made a big splash, but all that to say, I could go on about that, is that I was a part of that scene. And I call it like waves. It's like the local music scene exists in waves of energy, of national attention, statewide attention, local attention, and it's all because of like a band of brothers and sisters. Yeah. And is there enough bands of brothers and bands of sisters, solo artists, that creates this buzz of molecules and you know, vibrating, you know, and that because it comes down to those become friendships. Those, because we're in it, we're the good ones. I say good not as in talent wise, but the good hearted ones, we're in it just because we love it. We love music. We love expressing. We love supporting each other. Supporting each other is huge, coming to each other's shows, touting each other, collaborating with each other,
calling on each other for podcasts,
other for a podcast, and being you know, great grateful to be a part of be asked to be a part of it.
Of course, yeah.
And so the answer is that it comes down to a very personal thing. It's like I just feel so fortunate that I experienced that wave.
Mm-hmm.
And then along the way, I'm living my life.
Yeah.
And I'm in a marriage or I have a baby, but I'm a part of this wave.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm doing this and doing that, and I'm heartbroken and divorce. And here comes another wave. Yeah. And it just so happens like there's other people too, that we're all in these waves together. We're riding the surf and the waves together. And that to me creates this whole combined answer, that we're so fortunate to be creators.
Yeah.
And because it's kind of like, well, what's it for, Yeah. But it doesn't even matter. It's just because it just is.
Yeah.
It just is. If it's in us, that's just a part of what makes us our blood continue to flow in a
completely
happy way,
yeah.
In a fulfilling, meaningful way.
Certainly, yeah.
And to be able to look back and just see people that have taken off. Like I did a lot of show, a handful of shows with Leon Bridges, and he was always, always still, just so humble and kind. He'd be like, man, I really love your melodies. Oh, we should write together, things like that. And at the time, I was like, I had a day job.
Yeah.
Because he was like, yeah, just stop by the house, sometime, And
you're like, now I wish I
well, of course, now it's like, golly.
Certainly, yeah.
And, but no, watching people like him, but also just, I could go on and on of musicians that have just broken out their greatness we know about.
Yeah.
But then for it to happen, for that spark, for, to it's so beautiful to watch because the people, they deserve it, the people, so many people deserve as far as it can go, and so I just love seeing it, and that's part of those waves, and each wave has that, like,
someone shoots off into a new hemisphere.
Right.
Yeah, it's so exciting.
It is exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, having been in the community, I feel the same way about my era, if you will, like my early heydays with the Arrogant Sea, because like we kind of had a trajectory and we saw our peers do the same. I mean, the New York Times was writing about Denton, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
When we got there, we were like playing on the street corners and busking and playing in the pizza parlors and, the coffee houses. So I understand and I completely agree with that.
You're
mentality.
In it together.
We're all riding this wave, And someone recently asked me, they're like, Matthew, how do you feel about all the venues closing in DFW? And it's like, I'm going to liken it back to that mentality right there. Yeah. We are all riding a wave together. If that means we shift into living rooms and in gallery spaces.
Exactly.
We shift into museums. The arts will survive by us standing united together.
Yes.
And so my answer to that always was, hey, if we start losing traditional venues, we do what artists have done since day flippin' one.
Right.
We create the show.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And we're, like you said, we're in it together.
We are the
which
spectacle.
Creates the value.
Yeah.
That's create the gift just grows.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, we went through something hard together.
Yeah.
Like the COVID days,
exactly,
of like
a great example.
Doing this. I did, I think, 4 concerts.
I did multiple online concerts.
There you
like
go.
I'm with you. Yeah, multiple.
Yeah.
Actually, our good friend Nick Altabelli and I, we did an on Facebook Live song swap, which was so problematic but fun.
I love that idea.
Fun,
yeah.
Or the stage it. Like I love that the pandemic really inspired so many new outlets for artists to express themselves. Be it locally or international or otherwise. Like even the TikToks and things of that nature. And I just dated myself by calling it the TikToks. But even
or the Facebook.
Or the Facebooks. Hey.
We won't say the MySpace though.
Yeah. See, and that's the one I'm the best at. Can we bring MySpace back, please?
But talk to Tom.
He's not doing anything these days. But while we're still, I've got you talking talking on the DFW music community. Like I know as artists and observers of the local community, we also go through waves and seasons of discovering fresh new bands we really love. Is there anyone right now you're specific? And it doesn't have to be a new artist, an artist that you're just very inspired by at the moment.
Yeah. Well, this one, I think okay. I got to say this. Chris Holt's latest album, I think it's called Across the Milky Way. It's just a masterpiece.
I agree.
And I went to his album release and he performed it live with kind of an all-star band but the thing is what I was hearing on that stage wasn't just like good songs and well done playing, people that are like, chops galore, it was that I was watching a brother that's like achieving his dream.
Yeah.
Not only is he in the Eagles,
right? Yeah.
But it wasn't
sidestep past.
But it wasn't even mentioned that night. It was all about. He's been working on this album a long time, and here he is. It's coming to life. His dream, and so I was like, I'm watching his dream, and that made me so happy. So his stuff, Salim Nurala.
Love Salim as well.
Because one of his first albums before, he was in the Moon Festival. And so like I'm saying, those different waves.
Yeah.
Back then I was in a band that was signed with Patrick Keel from Dragon Street Records.
Yeah, yeah.
And his band, the Moon Festival, was signed to them too. And Tripping Daisy also, and so anyway, but Salim, after Moon Festival stopped, him and his brother Ferris created their own duo and did songs on an 8-track, and it's called the Nurala Brothers.
Oh, yes.
And it was like life-changing music because he really was kind of 8 tracks.
Yeah.
And there's such a beauty to just refining the parts so well to where
absolutely.
It's just, and anyway, so he's remixed a lot of that. He's found a bunch of new songs and Nurala Brothers songs in a box, kind of old CDs. Him and his brother are a relationship again. They were kind of on the outs for 20 plus years, and now they're back and they're creating again.
That's wonderful.
So I just got his vinyl double album, and saw his show last night. And so Nurala Brothers, but also Salim. He's so prolific.
And
he's such a. We're brothers, brother musician. He's in that category, with me, because we started out together very much, and we went on the road together here and there in the 80s, So in places like Monroe, Louisiana, or Shreveport, and when you do stuff like that, that's all part of like you're building like these goofy little bad memories, but they're great, with time, and the Barley House, playing shows at the Barley House together, like supporting each other and loving it. But so I would say like Chris Holt, but there's a band, I think they're from San Antonio, that's blowing me away because I saw them live at the Texas Theater a couple months ago, and they're called Telenovela.
Oh, I love Telenovela.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes.
And I know amazing is overused when describing art, so I hate to do so. But if I could slap that word on someone and truly mean it,
yes,
it'd be Telenovela. Just brilliant.
Live and the recording.
Absolutely.
It's just right.
Yes, and they're equally beautiful experiences.
Oh, yeah.
And like going back to what I was saying, I'm such an experienced person when it comes to music and how it's heard. And even with the live show, like there are bands that pristinely represent their songs while just performing. And then there are these bands that do the same thing with more dramatics. But I really love how they kind of toe the line of majesty on the stage.
It's strong.
It's just
It's
unreal.
strong.
And that's why I
In a very
use
indie
the
way.
phrase majesty.
Yeah.
Because there is a majestic moment or
Yes.
element to it. Excuse me.
Yes,
It's just
because it
brilliant.
is refined parts
Yeah.
played well.
Yeah, absolutely.
With amazing melodic structured songs.
Yeah.
And so you know me well enough that I lean toward the melodic. And I love, like, for instance, John Buffalo.
Oh yeah.
His latest solo is he created all these like techno inspired and album songs that he basically boomboxes it, basically sings along with
amazing, yeah.
backing tracks, but it's all like New Order, and
Yeah.
it's all like these little homages to the great techno bands of,
Yeah.
Kraftwerk, and then, and he's like, and so I guess I'm loving kind of the people I came up with
Yeah.
along the way and rode these different waves, because when I was in Ono, he was in Death Ray Davies.
Right, yeah.
And we would share the bill. And I remember thinking John Duflo, because I didn't know him at the time. I just
Right.
know we were playing Clearview together or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
But I always thought, that John Duflo, he needs to go.
Yeah.
He needs to go.
Yeah.
Because he's my competition. That was my maturity level then.
Sure, yeah,
It was
yeah.
like, he's good.
He needs to stop being so good.
He needs to go.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we got one out of the way. Now, who's next that needs to go? So, but so it's like, John Buffalo's another one, but telenovela is like
Brilliant. Yeah.
I hope we all get a chance, or get more chances for those gates to
Yes.
open.
Mm-hmm.
Just to increase, not for any other reason, but just to increase the gift that we're a and this is the spiritual part that I believe, like even this new album, I'm just a channel. I've just become a channel, and I try to create. I just try to grab it.
Yeah.
It's like catching a rabbit,
Yeah, of course.
It's
I
like,
certainly get that.
I'm
Yeah.
just, and so that's the thing, like, to increase, to spread the love, spread the gifts that we have cultivated, but also that the spirit of our music, the depth of our music, that it can open and kind of reach more people. That's the fame that I want. It's like, I just want it to reach more people. I'd almost rather be invisible somehow, and like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like,
course,
I don't want,
yeah.
it's almost like the less ego, the better,
Certainly, yeah.
It's like these songs, I want them to have life because they're meaningful, and I think they can heal. Like they're healing songs.
Yeah.
They're not the back door is wide open,
Right.
for the healing to take place. It's not kind of like just subtle, like, it's more like, so.
Beautiful words from a
Yes.
beautiful old friend.
Oh,
Rahim,
yeah.
thank you so much for being here with us today.
My pleasure.
Where can people find you?
Well, I'm all over the Spotify world and Amazon Music and MySpace.com, .net. No, I think I'm on the streaming platforms right now.
He's on the streaming.
I'm on the streaming.
He's on the
I'm
streaming.
on the stream. But I think, when I release this next album, I'm going to rethink that. I'm going to rethink how do I want to reach my audience and more effectively and more personally,
of
and
course.
more exclusively in a way,
Yeah.
So, but as it is
wonderful.
right now, it's just out there, Rahim Quazi,
That's
all that. Apple.
wonderful.
So, yeah.
You can find Rahim all over social media, streaming, and all that fun stuff, right?
That's right.
My brother, thank you again for being here.
Matthew.
It truly was just the most delightful conversation we've
I
had
love it.
in a while. So the next one, we'll have another conversation.
Sounds good. I loved every
Likely
second.
with Danishes and wine or something.
I would
like
love
that,
some
yeah.
Danish wine.